a beautiful Thursday here in Tampa, Florida. And together with my amazing producer, Wendy, out there in Arizona. You guys don't change your time at all, so that's a good thing.
I always thought that was a big joke. The whole time change, because Arizona has never changed time for daylight savings time, so I thought it was a big joke. But then when I started working here, I'm like, oh, wow, people actually change their clocks. That makes absolutely no sense at all whatsoever. But in Arizona, we don't do that.
You know what's interesting? I just found out today that Russia, for example, has 11 time zones, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a huge country.
Yeah. Some countries like Australia have half time zones, which is really weird. And so now I'm going to challenge you and ask you, how many time zones do you think China has?
China? Oh, gosh. 5?
Nope.
How many?
One more guess.
More or less.
I ain't telling you.
Oh, God.
What's that finger? That finger's kind of like pointing at me. It's one time zone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, crazy. So today, what I'd like to do, just together, you and me, chit chat about my book, which is the 52-week success plan and life-changing principles for greater wealth, happiness, and health that you can learn in 5 minutes or less. It's a best-selling book that I brought out a couple of years ago, really inspired with all the things that I'm doing today. I'm passionate about creating change and enhancing life. And the thing is that, what really changed my life in a very, pivotal moment, if you will, in a very magnificent way, is when I discovered this concept of what I didn't know that I didn't know. And I didn't realize it at the time. And I believe that so much that happens in our life happens because we discover something, what we didn't know, that is something that we're looking for that's really changing our life. Because that's how we make progress. I mean, we can start looking for things and we can, use our brain, with all the knowledge and experiences that we have to help us go forth in our journey in life and still not get to where we want to go. I believe that most of us, if not all of us, desire much more in life than we actually maybe perhaps achieve. And so the question is that, what's missing? What are the questions that we're asking? And being in the world of personal development, I've discovered so much. I didn't discover that world until very late. Really after all my medical training. I trained for 17 years. And what was interesting is that as much as I was kind of searching for things when I was in medical school, I started medical school when I was 17. I was reading the Greek philosophers, the classics, and all that kind of stuff. But it was way too complicated. It was way too sophisticated. And then I went to the Renaissance and the later philosophers with Rousseau and Sartre and all those people. And that was too complicated for me as well. And because it required just, exhaustive, thinking, exhaustive research. And with our interesting lives today, advanced as it is technologically over the last 200 years, life has changed quite significantly. And in a sense, we perhaps don't have all the time that we might want to be able to do all that searching, to do all that thinking, to do all that imagination, if you will, to get us to where we want to go. I mean, the pace of our life is so much faster. And so unless you're dedicated to personal development, to personal growth in a large way, by going to courses, by reading the books, by listening to the CDs, and finding mentors and more mentors who can sort of break down our human behavior in terms that are much more easily understood, it's going to take a while for you to really make the progress that you want to make. I believe that there's 20 times more within us than we're actually achieving. Now, some people clearly, are doing very well with that. I mean, look at Bill Gates, look at Jobs, Elon Musk, all these people, incredible people that really have made some major inventions or major changes in the way that we view our lives. But what about the rest of us? Are we just settling? Are we just, accepting what's out there? And simply because we don't know where to go. We don't know what to look for. We don't know the questions to ask. And so if you're not actively involved in that world of personal development, then what are you going to do? And so that's why I came up with this book. It's the 52-week success plan. It's 52 habits that if you took any of these habits, they would change your life in a small way, but in a good way. And the challenge that I found was that I needed to make it very simple for people to read. Each of these habits is described in basically 2 pages, 3 at the most. You can literally read them in 5 minutes. But I broke it down to basically 3 different elements. What's a question about questioning you where you are today, giving a little bit of scientific background and benefits and some of the resources. And so if I look at the book here and I look at the chapters, and the reason I did 52, because there's 52 weeks in a year, obviously. And, for us to really appreciate a new habit, we have to practice it. Now, studies show that if you practice a new habit for 3 weeks, then it becomes permanent. I don't know if that's how true that is. I've tried that. It doesn't always work. But sometimes, starting something that you're really passionate about and understand the value of something really makes a big difference, and you continue that forever. It's really about what you believe. It's really what you want. It's really what you value. And so I've broken down these things. So I'm going to quickly read the list. And then, Wendy, you're going to tell me which ones we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So power of gratitude, which is huge. And many of the successful people that I know tell me that, gratitude is what makes them, what really qualifies their success in their life. Don't complain all day is chapter 2. Interesting how often we complain about things, and really, how does this really serve us? Motion and stretch. People are sitting behind their desks and sitting in their cars for hours on end. There's a new diagnosis in the medical field, which is the sitting disease, which has a higher risk of cardiovascular disease than smoking does, which I think is absolutely fascinating. Oh. And so we need to move around. Daily affirmations and inspirations. These are just telling us what the truths are, what things we should believe in, what things that we should focus on, and looking at the greatness in life versus, telling yourself what's wrong. Results and outcome-focused day. It's interesting how oftentimes we just go through the motions every single day without really thinking, what is my focus? What is my outcome? When I have conversations with people, when I call people up, or when I meet my friends, and it's always clear that I have a specific outcome in mind. And this will be an interesting one to talk about, because especially parents with kids. Bless you, by the way.
Turn my mic down so you can hear me sneeze.
Yeah, it was a cute one. Yeah, I mean, even, parents with kids, it gets really busy, and the routine is, get them up in the morning, kick them out of bed, feed them breakfast, dress them up, make sure they have their lunch ready and their homework done, and get them to school quickly. I mean, typically that's the routine in the morning. Just imagine, how much magic is lost by not having a better outcome than just getting them to school safely that morning. Another one is questions to ask yourself during the day. Oh, I should turn this one off. See, that wasn't part of my outcomes today. I have a quiet studio here. I learned something from an incredible guy. You have heard of him. We've talked about him many times, Tony Robbins. And he talks about the quality of life is the quality of questions. And when we don't ask the right questions, then we're not going to get the right answers. And bad questions deliver, bad results or poor answers. Sort of like, what's great about today versus, why am I so unhappy? Why am I losing all the time? Because we'll give ourselves the answers that we're looking for. And so if your outcome is to feel bad, then okay, then you are going to be successful with a question like that. Listen to your body. You see so many unhealthy people out there, and quite frankly, as a physician and seeing all these people, I ask myself, what's wrong with these people? Why are they so sick? Why have they not taken care of themselves? Why have they not listened to their own body telling them that something is wrong? And that's a really important one. Commit to finishing a job. How many people start something and don't finish? I mean, are you a starter or are you a finisher? And what's the point of ever starting something if you're not going to finish? Target your time. That's a cool one. You know, it's the difference between having fulfillment in life versus being stressed all the time. That's one that I got from Tony Robbins. That'll be a fun one to talk about. Ask for what you want and be prepared to get it. You know, why not ask for what you want? I was very blessed today. I came back from the Bahamas where I do the stem cell with Okeanos. Anybody who ever has any challenges, medical challenges that they, you know, doctors are telling them there's nothing we can do for you. Call me, you know, Facebook me, call me, check out my website because the story about adult stem cells, these are your own stem cells, adult stem cells is actually incredible. We help tons of people. And so I was very blessed because I was supposed to have this radio show in Miami airport today. But yeah, but I was fortunate to fly in a Citation 10. It took me by the time I got home in Tampa was the time that I was going to leave the Bahamas. And so I was very fortunate with that. And so these beautiful people from Oregon, and names, I'm just going to give the first name, Sid and Karen and Becky and Alan and Jed and Celia. Beautiful, amazing human beings. And I just asked, kind of sort of like, hey, can I bum a ride with you guys? You're flying back home. And so I asked him if I could join him. And guess what? I got a ride under a cool jet.
Nice.
So too often, there's a great expression in Dutch, you know, you don't have a no, you could always get a yes. Or you already have a no. Nee heb je, ja kan je krijgen. So it's you already have a no, and you can get a yes. So ask and decide that you want something and get it. Being present is key. Now, this is one of the things that women always bitch about us men, is that we're not present. We're focused on something else. And one of the most magnificent things that you can do for any woman, and for everyone else, by the way, is being present when you're connecting with someone else. And that is huge. We should probably talk about that one. Focus on what's great. That's chapter 13, the art of reframing. You know, seeing something better than it really is. You know, we are creatures of meaning, and we have to give everything a meaning. And when we give something a bad meaning, then that's what our experience is going to be. And we also filter our world with our emotions. So whatever emotion we're feeling in the moment, that is what the experience and the meaning is going to be as well. And so I had a great interview the other day with Greg Coral, with the storyteller, the gifted storyteller. And it's really about the story that you tell yourself. And you can choose what story you want to tell yourself about what's going on. Choosing a better story, choosing a better experience. I love this one. We're not going to talk about this one, but this is chapter 14.
Why not?
Huh?
Why not?
Okay. Well, no, I think there are better ones to talk about, but this is pretty simple. The law of requisite variety. I can tell you exactly the answer here in one sentence. He who is most flexible wins. So the more flexibility you have in life, the more choices you have, the happier you're going to be, the more things that you can do. You know, the typical thing when you go out with a bunch of friends and you go out for dinner, and one person wants Italian, the other wants Chinese, and the other wants, you know, Korean food, and you don't care where you go, you're going to be the happiest because you can go anywhere, whereas the other ones will be limited. And so expansion is great, and when you are more flexible, and happy people basically have more choices. So, and sometimes as a result because of money, by the way. So, but it's not necessarily always the case. Stand guard at the door of your brain. That's something that we need in this country today so much, because, you know, we are influenced by people. We are influenced by emotion. We're influenced by rhetoric, but we're also influenced by a lot of misinformation. And in the end, my belief is that all people are still motivated by positive intention. I mean, this is not something that I conjure. This is a well-known fact in the world of performance strategies, neurolinguistic programming, and psychology, is that, you know, everyone is motivated by positive intention. The behavior might be negative, the behavior might be bad, the behavior might be destructive, but somewhere deep inside, It's motivated to satisfy something that's important inside of her. But standing guard at the door of your brain, that's something from Jim Rohn. And making sure that, what you hear, what you listen to, who influences you, is truly in alignment with what you really believe in and what you value and what is important. And that can be a challenge sometimes. Letting the inner child out. When was the last time? Well, I know you play all the time, but a lot of people are so serious. They don't play enough. And Norman Cousins, he laughed himself back to health. And it's about playfulness. It's about finding more creativity in life. It's having that imagination. It's being silly again. And it's the ability to reduce your stress and be more, how should I put it, able to resolve problems in life, because being playful allows you to be more creative and also imaginative, and also not so serious and stuck with certain ways. And again, that's part of being flexible. Time out. It's funny because we give kids, this is chapter 17. We've got a long way to go, by the way. If there's actually, if there's one that you really want to talk about, let me know. But time out, that's a big one. We give our kids time out, when they misbehave. And so I realized one day, because I have my own kids and I would give them time out. And I thought to myself, well, they're misbehaving, right? They're not doing something that I want them to do, or they're doing something that I don't want them to do. And I realized that the children, they're growing so quickly, the brains are expanding so much, the nerves are just regenerated like crazy, and sometimes they just don't know how to handle a situation, and they go nuts out. They do stupid stuff. And so really it's a timeout is really a way for them just to chill out, just to catch up with everything, because they don't know how to behave. They don't know how to think. They don't know how to react. And that happens with adults as well.
I heard that what they're having kids do now, and instead of being put into tension at school, they've turned tension into yoga and meditation. And they've got
That's awesome.
Outcome from kids who are misbehaving.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. So thank you for sharing that. Obviously bad behavior needs to have some sort of correction here or there. Why are we getting this echo, by the way? That can't be in my end, is it? Because
I don't hear an echo.
Okay. So, obviously bad behavior, again, is motivated by a positive intention, and punishment isn't necessarily the best approach. When you ask the Dalai Lama, and this is funny because one of the reporters asked him once and really was surprised by the answer. But they asked him, to the Dalai Lama, if your child misbehaves, would you spank him? Very much expecting him to say no. And he says, of course, if he misbehaves, I'll give him a tap in the butt and he'll get the message, So, but again, bad behavior, there's a lot of reasons why people do that, and not necessarily, coddling them and trying to understand them is really helping them discover, better choices. It's bad behavior is a lack of bad choices. Same thing as violence. There's a saying that I like because I don't like violence. Verbal violence or physical violence, but really violence, any kind of violence. I mean, look at the people that are protesting with violence. Protesting is good. It's important. I mean, I think it's important that people get to share their message, but never at the expense of somebody else. And violence is the last resort of the incompetent. And these aren't good choices. And so timeout is a good thing. It's an opportunity to reflect. It's an opportunity to think things through, to reevaluate and come up with different choices, which is, chapter 18, reframing. When you don't like something, when you don't like the meaning of something, you can ask yourself, what else does this mean? What could be better about this? Where's the opportunity? Crisis in the Chinese language is one of, okay, disaster on one end, but opportunity on the other. Where's the opportunity? Where can I grow from this? Anytime you have a disturbance, as I like to put it, when I'm upset about something or frustrated about something or I'm scared about something or confused about something, rather than going down that rabbit hole and just being at the effect of the world around me and sort of, victimizing myself. It's an opportunity to actually look at myself and say, hey, what can I learn from this? What can I change from this? What can I grow from this? What can I contribute from this? Because the truth is, we learn so much more in a way from our own challenges, our own struggles. Yeah, sure, we can learn from other people. I mean, I prefer to learn from everybody else's mistakes. I'd rather not have those mistakes, because some of those mistakes can be painful. But the truth is that and whenever we have any kind of disturbance, that's an opportunity to ask yourself, okay, what is it that I don't see? What is it that I don't know? Two questions that I think are absolutely vital in all of our lives, and in most situations when we're stuck. And totally change your life by coming up with the right answer. If you don't have the answer, then ask the right people, for the answer. And this is the reason for the platform. The reason for this platform is to bring new people to this platform with new voices, new solutions, new ideas, new experiences, and new perspectives. Just because I have my particular perspective on something, and then you have yours, many people may relate much more to you. And, and that would be a good thing, because it really doesn't matter, who gives you or where the solution comes from, as long as it's a solution that I call generative. And what that means is it's constructive. It's a combination of being constructive, positive, helpful, and really helping you grow and get to the next level. But also, in the meantime, contributing to other people. There's a great saying, hell on earth if I were ever to meet the man that I was meant to be. Hell on earth if I ever was to meet the man that I was meant to be. And I think all of us desire divine happiness. All of us, whether you believe in God or not. I think the best thing we can do in this world is become the best person of ourselves. Because what is that? I mean, why wouldn't we want to do that? Why wouldn't we want to be the best version of ourselves? And the challenge, of course, is sometimes we just don't know how to get there. Again, that's the reason for this platform, helping people discover what they don't know so that they simply can make the changes. And again, that's the purpose of this book. The book was to help people just very quickly look at it and say, oh, yeah, how we communicate doesn't work. Okay, cool. Let me look at that. I have, the big cliche about why a relationship fail is because they say, well, we weren't communicating anymore, right? And, or, values change or whatever. But it's so true. How we communicate just doesn't work most of the time, because people just simply don't know how to communicate. So routine your decisions, 20, personal growth development, absolute must. The art of compliments. And I always love giving compliments, especially to you, Wendy. But it feels good to get compliments, right?
Oh, it does, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's also fun giving compliments. But oftentimes do you find that people just say compliments and they don't mean it?
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what? They put that effort in. Yay. Regardless if they mean it or not. I mean, the effort was there. So you get an E for effort.
Yeah, but then you wonder if there's kind of something, an underlying agenda that's not really genuine. So maybe we'll talk about that if we have time. So we're only halfway through. So I'm just going to quickly read the rest, and then we're going to talk about some of these. The selfish versus self-actualized and self-love, journaling, which is huge. That's a great health benefit. Value chain and hierarchy. Whatever you value the most, that's what you're going to do in life. Changing what you value more. You get what you value. I love this one. Power nap and enough sleep. These are things that, you don't get enough of that. Your immune system goes down. You have cardiac problems. You have overweight issues. Back to nature. Over 99.9% of our life on Earth has been in nature. Last 200 years has changed dramatically. It's not a good thing. Be creative. Chapter 30 is retreat, rejuvenate, regenerate, and replenish. You can do that at home. That's chapter 31. Create your own personal retreat. The Art of Standing Up and Moving, that's taking care of that sitting disease. Daily Tai Chi, Qigong, moving meditation. Earthing, that's a cool one. Maybe we'll talk about that one.
Earthing?
Earthing, you know what that is?
Nope, I think we should go over that because I have no clue what earthing is.
Biodancing, rhythm dancing, trance dancing, that's an important one. Capture your dream, what dreams have you given up? Whatever you do it well. Interrupt negative emotions, vocabulary shift. The words we use really determine what we think and what we feel and what we convey to other people. And so words, even just in your mind, are critical. Vocabulary shift, forgiveness. That's an interesting one. We'll talk about that one too, maybe. Celebrate your faults and your weaknesses. That was my epiphany about 2 years ago, where it's just recognizing things that you're not happy with and not making yourself guilty or wrong or any of that, but just choosing to work on them. Reading the label, key thing. I always forget to do that one. Breathing is a big thing. Be inspired, laugh, listen to music. 60 to 90-minute work cycles. People just work on for hours and hours and hours and don't realize that their productivity reduces actually quite significantly after about 60 or 90 minutes. Take a break from social media. That might be tough for some. And the thing there is that, we're so addicted to social media, what everybody else is doing, we actually forget that we're very creative beings ourselves. And that time with just yourself being creative is important. Modeling success. The fastest way to become successful in life is see what somebody else is doing successfully and just do exactly what they do. Who am I? Great question that is on the front of many temples. And also how I was introduced to Tony Robbins, what really inspired me. And basically, beginning of his books and how he talks in many of his programs is, who am I? And that's a key question that we all need to ask. A happy inventory, and then future pacing it. And future pacing is deciding what your future is going to be and why you want that future, what is it going to give you, and how you're going to get there. So what are we going to talk about, Wendy?
Well, I wanted to start out with the sitting disease because I have no clue what that is.
Okay.
I'm educated on that enough to even have a clue what that's about.
So sitting disease, let me see, the art of standing up and moving. So that's chapter 32. And, as much as I wrote all these things, I don't remember everything, so that's okay. Einstein, you remember him?
Yes.
He was kind of smart, right?
Yeah. He was very smart.
So if somebody asked him, for his phone number, you know what he would do?
No.
You look in the phone book.
He didn't memorize it?
No, he didn't know it. I don't know if it's a true story, but it's a good one. And it's one that I heard. But yeah, he just really lived in a whole different world, and irrelevant facts didn't matter. So there's an enzyme called lipoprotein or lipoprotein. Lipo is fat, protein obviously, lipase. And what happens is that we have this enzyme in our blood vessels. And this enzyme just breaks up fat. And the challenge is that when you're motionless, so when you're sitting down for long periods of time, this enzyme becomes inactive. And so then what happens then is that those fat globules then start collecting in the vessel wall. And when they collect in the vessel wall, we call it atherosclerosis. And then what happens is those walls stiffen up, and then we have circulation problems. And so blood pressure goes up. Blood pressure is a bad thing for the rest of the body because then the arterial walls start thickening even more. And then you have poor blood supply to the tissues. And that causes not oxidative stress, but anaerobic stress or hypoxia or low blood oxygen and tissue death. And that creates scarring and all sorts of problems. And so what's scientific research has really shown that within about 60 to 90 minutes of sedentary lifestyle, so sitting behind a desk, then these enzymes shut down. And the average amount of hours that people sit down here in the United States is 7.7 hours. And what's interesting is that was it two or three 30-minute workouts during that week is not enough to overcome this problem. And so people gain weight, they have diabetes, the HDL, which is a good fat in the blood, decreases. And so the idea is every 60 to 90 minutes you get up, you walk around, even if it's for 2 minutes, drink some water, obviously, because 75 to 80% of the population is dehydrated. And so water is a good thing. 80% of our body is made up of water. So I got my water here. And so that's the sitting disease. And so it's something to work on. The interesting thing too, I learned this from another person that we've interviewed, Mitchell Stefko, and he's worked closely with Robert Dilts, instrumental in developing neurolinguistic programming. But one ritual or habit that I learned from them as well is, when you get up every 62 minutes and 90 minutes, then you regroup in a sense, and you establish your intention once again. What am I going to do for the next 60 or 90 minutes? So if you're studying, for example, you're working on something, an intention could be, I'm going to learn effortlessly and be able to recall everything easily and have complete understanding of all that I learned so that I can, pass my exam, something like that, whatever it is, whether you're creating something and that's also part of having an outcome. So say, for example, you go boxing, right? So you're going boxing today?
Yes, I am.
So do you have very specific outcomes when you have in mind? I mean, is it an outcome, well, I'm just going to work out? Or is it going to be, I'm just going to beat his ass today or something?
Actually, okay, so the outcome that I want is I want to be stronger, and I want my skills to become sharper. And yes, I do want to, have a really good cardio workout and burn calories. But for me, I just want to be stronger and be better at it. And so when I go back again on Monday, I'll take what I learned on Thursday and implement that. And then Monday, I become stronger and I become more accurate. And what I do is, because I go every Monday and Thursday, I just keep trying to improve myself as much as possible.
Right. So what's fun though, and you may want to start trying this out, and because when you talk about getting stronger and more fit and losing, weight, those are okay, but they're still kind of generic kind of outcomes. So having those outcomes to begin with is good, but getting even more specific, if there's a special sort of like right hook that you want to work on, or have the ability to kind of dance in a certain way and avoid the punches or whatever it is, having one or two or maybe three different specific outcomes during that you then focus on. Because here's what happens is that our unconscious brain, right? There's a conscious brain and unconscious brain. The conscious brain processes 200 bits of information per second. That's all that we can process. We can't process any more information. So if you imagine, cupping out your hands like this and you're getting 200 toothpicks every second. So you could 200 put aside, another 200 put aside. So you can handle that. That's what our conscious brain can handle. A lot of this is not much to our awareness, but looking around you, looking at the screen, listening to me, listening to other things behind there, sort of thoughts that are going in. That's 200 bits of information per second. Now, the unconscious brain, now imagine this, 200 bits per second for the conscious, 2 million bits of information every second. So just imagine 2 million toothpicks in your hands. You can't handle that. So what's important then is that the unconscious mind is still very much conscious, or eavesdropping, if you will, on the conscious mind. It's kind of listening in. The unconscious mind runs your heart rate, your gut, your eyelashes, everything, right? I just got, distracted by your eyelashes there. So I meant to say blinking, not eyelashes. So the important thing though, is that when you tell the unconscious mind, okay, I really want to start working on this, I really want to get this outcome, and I want to have this kind of experience, and so I want to have a lot of fun today. I really want to get that swing really, more powerful than it was before. I want to also focus on being able to more quickly dodge, his left hook, these kinds of things. And then very unconsciously, you start working towards that and become more effective. I mean, it's no different than you unconsciously doing things and doing them well. It's because somewhere, somehow, consciously, you told your unconscious mind to work on them. And so having that very specific outcome is important. And so getting back to the sitting disease, whatever it is that you're doing, you get up every 60 minutes, 90 minutes. Some people actually don't sit down at all, which is a good thing. Standing up, there's that varied desk that you can lift everything up. Mm-hmm. I just have a bunch of wine bottle cases, and I put my computer on top of that for my other computer. But it's important to stand up and then have that very specific outcome. Right, next one. What do you want to talk about?
Let's do listen to your body.
All right. I forget which, where was that one?
I think that had to have been like the 6th or 7th.
All right, listen to your body. So what's interesting, what?
As it said, see, I pay attention.
Yeah, you did. See, I don't even remember what book. So I start with a question, and in all these chapters, it's kind of fun because the question, as we mentioned earlier, is bringing to you awareness, something that perhaps you weren't thinking about before. And the quality of questions is the quality of life. You ask better questions, you get better answers. And that's from Tony Robbins. So bringing into our awareness, bringing into our conscious mind is critical in us being able to identify things, make decisions about them, and then changing them if necessary. So do you notice any ache, pain, discomfort in your body? Do you crave certain foods? And do you always drink when you're thirsty? Because the thing here is, when you think about it, your body is your temple. Mm-hmm. Without your body, you don't have anything. And so with a perfectly functioning body, then you're going to be able to do a lot more in life. And so it's fascinating. And I'm also guilty of this too. But it's fascinating how much we take our body for granted, how much we abuse it, how much we don't take care of it. Mm-hmm. And the truth is as we do get older, it gets harder and harder and harder and harder. And so the best thing that you can do is give your body what it needs. First of all, water is key. So when you're thirsty, how often do you, well, maybe not you, but I can tell you, I've done this many times, but oftentimes people just don't ignore their need for drinking water. And sometimes what they do instead is that they eat. A lot of people will eat food to get water into their system, because as we metabolize food, water is generated, and so it hydrates the body. And so sometimes we mistake, the need for water than for food, and we just eat the food instead of the water. So what are things that are good for you? What are things that are not good for you, especially when you have a meal? There was a time when I really enjoyed, the real thing. Do you know what the real thing is?
Sugar, butter? I don't know.
You know the commercial, Coca-Cola? It's the real thing.
Oh, God, don't drink that crap. That's so bad. I do not drink soda. I have not drank soda in years.
Well, soda is really bad, but I love Coca-Cola.
It's horrible for you. Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah.
But what was interesting is for the longest time, I would just drink. A lot of people drink that shit. And but then about 30 minutes later, I just have a terrible mental, emotional dip. And sometimes even more quickly. And so I started noticing that and realized, well, hang on a second. When I eat this or drink that, this is what happens to my body. And so my body's not functioning in the best possible way. And so it's also the same thing when you say, for example, you eat junk food. And sometimes it's inevitable. Sometimes it's really good.
Only if it's chocolate and it's dark chocolate.
Yeah, that's not junk food.
Close.
But what happens though is that your body then oftentimes will crave the same thing or more of the same thing because there's what we call body memory. And what the body's actually really telling you is, look, I need more nutrients. And not so much the protein or the calories, but other nutrients like vitamins or minerals or things like that. So the body's telling you, look, give me more of the same thing because I need more of those. When in reality, what you're doing is you're giving yourself too much of, say, the carbs or the protein and not enough the minerals. And that's why supplements are very important. Understanding, the effectiveness of supplements. And the best thing, if people can do this, they can afford it. There's a great program out there, Designer Health Centers, and they do a full workup as far as, your minerals, your heavy metals, things like that, a genetic workup, so that you have a better understanding what your body needs. And, but you can do what you can do yourself as best as you can is just pay attention. Pay attention to how your body is responding to any kind of environment. If you're sleepy throughout the day, well, that's an obvious sign that you're not getting enough sleep at night. What's happening at night? If you're waking up in the middle of the night because, and I'm guilty of this, by the way, because you had a snack at 11 p.m., right? What's happening? And you maybe get gastric reflux, and then you wake up, or, your sugar goes out of whack at 3 o'clock in the morning, so you wake up. And so listen to those things. Just don't assume, like so many people do, you're supposed to have gastric ulcers and you're supposed to have, all these other kind of complaints and headaches. Headache is just simply a manifestation of a disturbance in your body, and you just really wanting to figure out, okay, what's wrong? Oftentimes it's just simply dehydration. So listen to your body is key. What else did I write here? The truth is that if you don't listen to your body, more than likely you're going to be very sick very early in your life. And any kinds of pills and any kinds of surgeries may not be enough, to help you. The quote that I have here says, the body, it's my quote, by the way, the body never lies. Listen to it.
That makes sense. It's true.
So, talking about not sleeping enough, how many hours of sleep do you need?
Do you need or versus do you want? Because there's a big difference between the two, right?
No. How much do you need? How much do you need? It's a question for you.
Oh, for me personally, how much do I need? 6 to 7 hours.
That's enough for you?
Yeah.
I hate you. I need 8.
Yeah?
Yeah, and the truth is that everybody's different. Some people do really well 4 or 5 hours. I hate those people even more. And if I tell my clients, I say, look, figure out how many hours, not how many hours you want, how many do you need? Big difference. And just make that non-negotiable. Just make sure you get your 8 hours of sleep. Because the truth is that not enough sleep, for whatever reason, there's more stress. You can develop heart disease, diabetes, other chronic conditions, mood disorders, obesity, reduced immune function, increased accidents, making mistakes, loss of income, and loss of job opportunities. Studies have clearly shown this. So benefits of good sleep: less stress, less inflammation, longer life expectancy, improves memory, creativity, ability to learn, decision-making, performance, promotions and salary increase, improved weight control, less depression. 1 out of 5 car accidents is because of a lack of sleep. Well, maybe that's changed now with those stupid cell phones. Better physical performance. That's a huge one. Athletes, for example, the main reason they get injuries is because of lack of sleep. Less chance of injury, better sex life, better mood, and reduced inflammation, improved immune function. And so some of the key things here is that, go to bed at the same time every time. People do recommend by 10 p.m. But things that are critical is you have to have the right temperature, making sure that the light is not bothering you or noise is not bothering you, removing electronics from the area. You don't eat several hours before you sleep. There are sleep assisting devices. They can be extremely helpful to kind of monitor how you're sleeping so that you can make any changes. And also, what's interesting, and I think a lot of people kind of discount this, is that your brain is very active through the night.
Oh, definitely.
And it's processing a lot of stuff that happened throughout the day. And so it's important to, give yourself that opportunity just to get enough sleep so that your brain processes properly. Sleep is for restoration, rejuvenation, integration, and for your health. It's another quote I like. But key again, people compromise, sacrifice their sleep, and suffer the consequences the next day and the rest of their life because of chronic disease, lack of performance, lack of ability, depression, all those things. So one way out, by the way, is you can take naps. And, that's, Mexicans do that. The siesta time.
I cannot calm my brain down enough during the day to nap. It's just not going to happen.
Is that right?
My mind now. There's too much to do for me to take a nap during the day.
I try to do it sometimes. But it's interesting. 20 to 30 minutes, studies again have shown this. Between 1 and 4 significantly improves performance and health. So it helps with cognitive performance. It helps with memory. And so it's a good thing.
Okay, so one thing I wanted to touch on is earthing. What's earthing? I still don't know what that is.
All right, so earthing. Let me find that chapter again because I want to make sure
Vibrating or earthing? It feels like I said earthing and all of a sudden things start vibrating.
My phone is.
It totally.
Earthing. So here's central to a lot of the things that I do and talk about is that our bodies are made of energy.
Yeah.
And everything is made out of energy. Everything's vibrating at some sort of level. And when we vibrate at the wrong frequency, or let's rephrase that, when different parts of our body, different cells of our body are vibrating at different frequencies, there's really a disharmony. Same thing that happens when, you go to an orchestra and all these, incredible musicians are kind of tuning their instruments, and it's just a cacophony of sounds that's kind of annoying sometimes, but then they all get in sync. And so when your body is vibrating in sync, it just functions so much better. This is why meditation is so helpful. This is why acupuncture can be very helpful. It's really resetting those wavelengths, those vibrations within the body. And so just like when we have electronic appliances, many of them are grounded. And so that's a safety factor. So we need that grounding as well. In our lives, we actually need to be grounded. And the way we get grounded is through what's called earthing. So the planet, the world, has all this electromagnetic fields. And with all the stresses that happen within the body and all the external environment with computers and other types of wavelengths that affect the electromagnetic fields within our body, then the vibrations can be very much out of sync. And so earthing is about walking barefoot, connecting with the electromagnetic fields of the earth so that you can get grounded and you can also get normalized. And so they recommend 30 minutes per day to have this practice. Now, the key point with this, and this is a bit of a challenge, is that it has to be barefoot on natural ground. So it can't be on cement, it can't be on a carpet, it has to be on sand, dirt, or grass.
And it cannot be in Arizona in the middle of summertime.
Well, there you go. And you can't have shoes on. Well,
All right.
my problem here is everybody has dogs, but they don't all clean up the shit. So,
Oh, yuck.
so it's a hard problem. So when you can go to the beach or things like that, so earthing is important. They have those mats out there, but when you think of it, I mean, for millennia, humans, have been barefoot, and so we kind of forget, our history. Where do we come from? And our how should I put it? Our integration with the world around us. I mean, we've evolved with the whole planet around us and nature around us. And so everything around us influences, our well-being. That's why going to nature is so important. And because of the last 200 years with the Industrial Revolution and technology and everything else, we're further away from what's important for us. And first of all, eating and drinking synthetic stuff that's not good. Right, intoxicating our body with all sorts of medications and drugs, and so it's a surprise that we are actually doing so well, or as well as we are. People who live the longest, they have a lot of things that they take care of, from lifestyle, from attitude, from what they consume, from exercise, all these things. All these centenarians, they're doing something right. It's not just in genetics. Sometimes it is. I think George Burns, I think he was still dancing in his 90s with a cigar in his mouth. Okay, well, he's maybe an exception. But we can be so much healthier, if we take care of all these things. Yoga, meditation, and then earthing. 3 more minutes. All right. So is that chapter 3? Let's see what chapter 3 is, because I think chapter 3 is, that's motion stretch. So a couple of things that I want to wrap it up with. Gratitude is a key one. Not complaining. Whatever you focus on, that becomes, that's where your energy goes. Or whatever you focus on, energy flows, as Tony Robbins puts it. And so, it's the story you want to tell yourself. It's what you want to experience. It's deciding what emotion you want. You have the ability to either be what we call at effect, or at cause. So are you at effect of the world around you? Are you choosing to be beaten up by your boxing teacher, or are you going to learn how to box and fight back and beat him up, right?
Dude, he's pretty tough too.
So it's really being at cause. You deserve to be at cause. And so what I like about this book, for anybody listening, and I'm not here to promote my book because it's my book. It's just I have this passion for creating change and enhancing life. I have this passion to help people discover, their true value. I'm always on that journey as to how I can become more. And I want to be so much more. Mm-hmm. And the way that I position myself is the more that I work on myself, and the more that I work on the product, just like, all sorts of companies that sell something, they work on that product. They do their market research. They figure out what people want. Cars, for example, the best of the best. And when you work on yourself, then you become the gift, and you become that gift to other people, and you get to contribute, and you get to give back. That's perhaps one of the biggest joys. The biggest joys in life is really growth and contribution. It's not how much money you have. It's not how many things you have. That kind of spices it up. But really being out there to make a change in the world, living a purpose, finding divine happiness, resolving what makes you unhappy is really what it's all about. So I want to thank everyone listening in today. I hope this was helpful. Get my book, 52-Week Success Plan. And it's really tapping into your authentic genius. I love bringing people here to hear new voices, new solutions, real success, real people, real conversations. And I am Dr. Bart Rademaker, prescription for your transformation, and I will see you soon.